This is the Conservation Commission meeting, June 28th. It's now 7 PM, and we have Town of Walpole, notice of intent, Conservation Commission, public hearing. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent, Town of Walpole to construct a pull-off on North Street to access conservation land, map 9, lot 18-1, within 100 feet of wetland resource area in Walpole, Mass. Plans are filed at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in person on March 22, 2023, beginning 7:20 PM. All interested person request be present. Hearing's been opened and continued. And you don't have any comments, Landis?
Is there anything in the file? There's nothing in the file.
Was there anything new?
I guess not.
I don't think so.
Well, there was a letter that came through the building inspector today, but it didn't get into the file, because it didn't come to us.
We don't have it?
No, I don't have it, because it came in today.
Okay.
It was directed to the building inspector.
A letter to the building inspector?
Yes.
Oh, not from, okay. We've had those. So nothing new from the standpoint, other than it's, the revisions have been made to reduce the impact on the east side of North Street. So, and you have nothing more to add?
No, so the plan was revised and it was put on the website, and it's up on the screens here. So on the side of the Conservation Commission land, the area, the fill area has been reduced. It's reduced to about 20 feet. And the intention is to just have it as a trail access where also someone could lay a kayak down in that area before going down onto the site. The opening of the stone wall is 8 feet. And then on the other side of the street, there's an existing turnout, which is gonna be improved where the pavement widens a bit in the right-of-way. And the idea is to open that up a little bit more by putting gravel in an area which there's currently just shrubby vegetation that would be weed whacked. This is all in the town's right-of-way. It's not on anyone else's property. Then a proposed 5-foot gravel walkway would be constructed to a boardwalk of 5 feet that would go from the gravel walkway through the wetlands to the other side, where you currently can come down a path in the pasture, not on the roadway, to the boardwalk. The specifications for the boardwalk, under the Wetlands Protection Act, a boardwalk is allowed as long as it's constructed to be elevated to allow for flow to get under, and also to allow for light in between the boards, and that's how it will be constructed. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Dean, any questions,
No,
comments?
no questions.
Bailey?
No.
Betsy?
I'm glad that we're finally at this place, and that what we're talking about is a small amount of work in the buffer zone that's jurisdictional, and that it looks good. It looks better than it was, so I'm happy with the way it turned out.
Okay. Al?
This marking on the plan here in brown, those are parking spots, are they?
No, that's
Those
the
are
boardwalk,
boardwalk.
Al.
Boardwalk.
That's the boardwalk. Oh, okay.
Yep. So under 10.533F, a boardwalk is allowed as a limited project,
Yeah,
as long as it
okay.
meets the specifications that I just
Go ahead.
cited.
Okay. No other question.
Anybody in the audience have questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record and move up to the microphone, please.
And it should be on this topic, not on nipper bottles or trash cans or fire
Right,
streets,
'cause the
fire chiefs.
trash isn't, yeah, I totally understand, it's not the purview. So, I'm just curious about adding the gravel to the pullout?
Can you introduce you?
Oh, I'm sorry, does this move? Katie Sissel, 536 Fisher Street, Walpole. And, I was curious about I think in the plan it mentions improvement of the shoulder next to the pullout. Is there a, dimension for the plan of how much gravel's being added? How many feet to enlarge
Not at this point.
that area?
So the
It'd be
area is
minimal.
shown, the area, it's already a flat area, it's just a little
Oh,
rough.
right, yeah, I've seen it.
So all it is weed whacking out the weeds and putting the gravel down to smooth out the area.
So adding a certain unknown amount of gravel to the side of the pavement there?
Within this area, yes, yeah.
Okay, so
That's
it's,
specified on the plan.
right, but the exact dimension of how much gravel is being added
You don't have to specify
isn't,
that.
okay. So assuming it gets approved tonight, what are the next steps for moving forward from here? Does it include a safety evaluation from fire department, or a review
There'll
by
be some
select?
additional, we need to signage, determine what signage we need, how the crosswalk is finalized, those details, yes. There'll be, between the, working with the engineering department to come up and taking into account what we have had comments from the fire and police department.
So no plans to get any further approvals from the planning or select board?
Planning board is not, it's not required for approval for the planning board with the reduced disturbance of the stone walls.
That makes sense, yeah. And no
And
requirement for
Well,
select board?
it'll be run through town administration by the time we get all this put together.
And just, this is purely for me, what's town administration mean? I don't know what that means.
Through the town administrator and the select board, if that's appropriate.
Okay.
Jim Johnson is the town administrator.
Oh, okay, yeah, I actually didn't know he existed, so
Okay, yeah, so
apologize for that.
if they say, you need this, we need this.
Right.
He can put things on the select board agenda.
Sorry, say that
He
again?
can put things on the select board agenda.
Oh,
His
okay.
office is actually pretty powerful.
Okay, yeah, it's all new to me. And I'm assuming, is the boardwalk on New England forestry land?
Oh, as I stated earlier, all the work is recurring in the town right-of-way where you can see the lines are in, that's the town right-of-way.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I think I think that trail there is a beautiful idea. I just was curious if any permission was needed from New England Forestry as owners of that.
No, we can't file a notice of intent for another owner.
Okay. All right, those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a letter I'd like to pass up, if that's okay?
Okay.
Good evening, Kathy Campbell. I'm actually from Burns Avenue. I'm here with Laura Fisk, 930 North Street. The letter that she's passing out just had some questions. Landis, I think you may have answered one of the questions. We were wondering if it needed a new DEP approval, but it sounds like,
This is the DEP approval. This is the Wetlands Protection Act
okay.
approval.
And so because of the boardwalk and the way you're constructing it, you don't need, originally you had,
Send to DEP if they have any comments or if they want to appeal the decision of the commission, they will do so.
okay. And then one of the questions that we had come up last time, after we left one of the meetings, was that we had understood from an ADA compliant individual that any new trails that are being built need to be ADA compliant. So the boardwalk, it sounds like it will be ADA compliant, but the other side of the street, does that have to be compliant?
I talked to Jim about it today. Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Mr. Crowley, who's the building commissioner, came up to me, and that's how I got a copy of your letter, and he responded to you in regards to ADA compliance, like,
Okay, I think, and maybe I misunderstood. I thought he was speaking about the boardwalk and the permitting on the boardwalk, but not necessarily the other side. I mean, because the other side is not fully developed, so,
right, so he would be the person to talk to about that subject. My understanding was he responded to you.
okay. Did he, I don't know if he, I think he responded
No,
to
he
the,
just responded to the
If you
boardwalk.
have other questions, then you should ask him, because he's the official in town who deals with any kind of compliance like that, not the Conservation Commission.
okay. And I think, again, probably the same question that Katie had from before. I know the fire department has submitted a letter dated April 18th, focused on change of pattern of traffic, foot traffic in the area. Will all of those safety issues be addressed so
As
that
I
the
said,
public? so
we
that-
have a letter from both the police and fire department, so those will be taken into account.
Okay, and if this meeting closes tonight, how will the neighbors know what the outcome of those?
I guess you will find out when it is, when the project is completed, whatever is done on there. We have comments from both, and we'll take those into account as far as when it comes to putting the details of construction together for this.
So nothing will be sent out, like nothing
No,
will be posted
no.
publicly as part of a part of this project?
You can always contact me if you know,
Okay,
with anything outside, you know, having to do with the conservation land.
okay, and I guess until we know what those, I mean, I don't, other than the letter from the fire department, I'm not aware, I don't know what was in the police department letter, so. Did you see it?
No.
Oh.
We did get a letter from the police department, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought we
It's been in
did.
the file.
Yeah,
If
and
anyone
I think there were
come up and take a
similar,
look at it.
similar concerns, with,
Okay,
it's,
okay,
You can come up and take a look at it.
all right. So
Send you a copy if you want, just ask.
okay. No, I just didn't know, normally everything related to a project is put online so that it's easily accessible, so if this is not,
The zoning board does a very good job at that. If it's out, so their issues are safety issues, which I know it sounds funny to a lot of people, but it's not under the wetlands protection regulation, so it's not technically under the permit. Do you see what I mean?
yeah.
So I don't want to muddle things by putting up those onto the wetlands permitting page, because it's not a wetlands permitting issue. But if you would like a copy, all you have to do is ask me.
Okay.
anything else?
You said that, when you answered Kate, you said that you have to go to the admin and the selectman would have the ultimate decision and so forth. Will we be able to be will they have it during the selectman meeting, or is this being closed in their office, or will we be able to have a voice, or? that's-
It depends what they want to do.
Yeah, they might or might not,
Betsy?
they might or might not have it as an agenda item. You have to go through the
Listen, As I said,
administrator.
we will review this with town administration, and if they decide that this should go before the select board, then it will be done. But they will be aware of it.
Okay.
So if they decide they want to have it as part of their agenda for a given meeting, if we can, I guess, keep in touch with our office, because we would know if that's going to happen, and let you know.
Okay.
How aware are the select board already of it?
Well,
I mean, they
Well,
have
they've
actually-
approved the project.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
thought, yeah.
the funding for the project,
Yeah.
so, we'll see where it goes from there.
You'll have to find out whether they want to do something in addition. It's not, we can't tell them to, we would be, I mean, we work under them.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you. Take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 500. Do you have an order condition put together?
Right, so the order would be written that the approval of the boardwalk is under the limited project 10.533F, as long as it's constructed, so I think we just need a little better detail of the construction of the boardwalk, so that should be submitted prior to construction, that it be put on posts or raised above the water level, and that there be adequate light penetration for the vegetation.
Okay,
So just make sure we have a correct detail for that. So as far as any other, as far as the on-site trail, currently, as I've said before, you can walk along the property in the field to get down to the edge of the property line, and under 10.022A, an unpaved walkway less than 3 feet can be constructed on public conservation land without a filing, so.
good.
So they have to file if there's a path that's 3 feet. And just, the other condition just would be the fill used for the trail landing within the 100-foot buffer zone shall be clean fill, absence of construction debris.
Okay. Anything else we need?
Not that I came up with.
Okay. So we'll make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
500. Good, thank you.
I have a question. Is the reason that it's so untreed in places back there because New England Forestry removed trees and they
Well, I
haven't,
think it's been regularly mowed.
So you
Oh,
move the
okay.
file.
by New England Forestry, yeah.
And fortunately, the next door neighbor that I believe he's mowing onto the property.
Okay, because it is strangely untreed for a conservation property, but.
Linus, when was the first NOI for this next one?
When, on the original?
I think it's before my time.
It was definitely before.
Oh, gosh, it was way before your time.
It was before my time.
Yeah,
Pre-pandemic.
Whoa.
way.
2019, I think.
2018.
Sorry, let's open this up. You're on C4.
Do you need to add? You have it, you have this. There's no ad because it's an amendment.
It's funny, this doesn't look like C4.
got a copy. It's gigantic anyway.
I'm gonna try to stay on C4, but
Okay. Somehow our C4 looks busier than yours, but maybe not.
Is this an explosive?
Here, we can help you.
You don't have to laugh.
So there's no ad, it's an amended order of conditions, just like a letter requesting the amendment.
So there's nothing, this is 4.
That's fine. They printed them, we might as well use them.
It's,
It was advertised.
so
Is the advertisement in, sorry.
Here it is.
It's right
How
there.
about this? CO current it is.
This is the stormwater one, C4.
Okay. Town of Walpole, Commonwealth of Massachusetts Conservation Commission amended order of conditions, land disturbance permit in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and Walpole Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw and regulations. Notice hereby given the intent of Bristol Brothers Development Corporation to amend the approved order of conditions, DEP number 315-1173 at Renmar Ave and West Street, map 32, parcels 85, 86, 94, 95, 96, map 40, parcel 6, map 39, parcels 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60 for the 100-unit AQV in Walpole, Mass. The amended order of conditions and land disturbance permit application and plans on file at Conservation Commission office. Public hearing and above matter will be held in person February 22nd, 2023, beginning 7:15 PM. All interested persons are requested to be present. Hearing's been opened and continued. Representing the applicant.
Josh Green from Crocker Design Group and Steve McCarthy of JF Price.
What do we? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna stand up for it just so I can point at things. So generally, we've been working with the town, both conservation, peer review, as well as the town engineer, trying to address all the comments. Generally, most of them have been, signed off on, especially by the peer review. Just wanted to kind of go through the ones that have some elements that are still open. If you had a chance to review the peer review letter, I think they kind of gave a nice little summary to it, but first one was the dry wells. They just wanted a little bit more detail on it. They were added in to handle the roof runoff. Generally, they are behind kind of the perimeter of the project. They're very similar to the dry wells. I mean, it's a standard dry well. It's going to function similar to the other infiltration systems, so there are details and elements in the stormwater report that generally cover it, but we can absolutely provide an actual detail for each individual dry well.
Is there a, sorry, go ahead.
We can stop after each one if you want to.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The next one is related to the wet basin, generally kind of in the middle of the plan. That was related to the depth. So the wet basin has to have a certain depth to it. Depending on the mean that was taken, it looks like it might be a little bit shallow of it, but to solve that, generally it would just need to be excavated slightly deeper. So not a major change to the design in any way on that one.
I'm sorry, can I just, so the outstanding requirements I've listed in my report, just in case.
If I miss any, please let me know too. The next one was related to the slope. So we had the 2-to-1 slope going along the backside where a retaining wall is shown. Sorry, right about there. That detail was provided. I believe it was received by the Conservation Commission's office. So that would satisfy that one. It was stamped by a structural engineer. The one that is still outstanding is detail on the plan for the 1.5 to 1 slope. That can be stamped by a geotech engineer. We're more than happy to provide that prior to construction if the commission's amenable to that condition. Next one was related to the SWIP.
I'm sorry, can you just back up? So what you submitted the detail for the wall by the structural engineer for the lots listed 52 to 58, 83 to 91, 92 to 93, 96 to 100?
Yes, so these ones here, and then this wall shown here.
So what page is that?
C4, it's all in C4.
I was gonna say, the other sheets show it in a little bit more detail, but it would just be the next, I wanna say it's C2 and C4 that have those, but.
The part that you just referenced as outstanding still being the what?
I think it was a town engineer that wanted the geotech stamp. I think this might have been a comment from before then. I think Beta made reference to it in their letter. They wanted a geotech stamp on the 1.5 to 1. On one of the detail sheets, there was a detail. He just wants it stamped by geotech. So it seemed like something that could be conditioned, but obviously, conversation. next item was related to the four bays. I believe Beta deferred to the commission on it as far as their last comment. The applicant, as well as us from a design standpoint, we've used riprap before in the four bays. It helps slow down the water and just generally settle the solids out. They want a hard bottom, I completely understand from a maintenance standpoint, but riprap can be vacuumed up as far as maintenance. So while I understand the point, I think riprap still will work, but defer to the commission on that one. If the commission would prefer a hard bottom four bay, we'd like to make it out of some kind of stone. It'd be cut stone, so it'd still be a flat surface, just not this, more normal concrete. But whichever the commission is amenable to. Next was related to the berms at the top of swales. They are numerous across the site, but I think the best example is probably behind 44 to 51. You've got check dams and the swale that has a berm around it. That maintenance that they wanted added to the O&M plan, it's standard landscaping as far as, weed whacking and cutting the lawn. That's just making sure that it doesn't get overgrown. And the last thing was, I don't remember if this was in the town engineer's letter, but I think Beta made reference to it, was a liner along this infiltration system. More than happy to put some type of impervious material there to prevent breakout on the down gradient slope.
So this is the swale that goes at the top of the berm, and then there's a slope that goes down to
This is subsurface that the breakout was made reference to. So you've got a subsurface system that's obviously leaching out into the ground. It's proposed to be a relatively steep slope, and then after that's an existing steep slope, so the concern for breakout was brought up. So on that down gradient side.
That was my comment.
Yeah, oh, okay. With all the letters, it gets jumbled up. But,
It's been reviewed well.
yes, but absolutely more than happy to put an impervious material there to alleviate that. And my last comment, I know, was on the letter, so if you want me to stay away from the town engineer's comments, I will. If you want me to bring it, I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the only major comment that he had with the letter that was issued today was related to this infiltration basin.
Which number is that?
Is 6. So there was just 2 rims that were a little low compared to the 100-year storm. Other storms that seemed to be fine. From our cursory look, we got it this afternoon, so we weren't able to do a complete design. We did talk with the town engineer, and he seemed to think that it would be a relatively simple fix as well. Our idea would just be to lower the system. It looks like, going off the soil testing we have, that we can do it. It's about 1.5 feet, so the system would function the exact same as shown now, and it would function the same way as it's modeled in the stormwater report, just a slightly different elevation.
The file. You want it? You want the file?
No, I just, so,
It's not here. It's not in this file. It'd be in new.
so just wanted the commission to be aware, there was 2 things that were provided. One was, this is the detail
The wall.
by the structural engineer of the walls.
Jack, can you pass that around?
Did we get that?
I have a copy, I don't know what happened. And this is a letter that came in today from the town engineer with additional comments.
Do you want this read in? This is my stuff.
Okay.
It's not, do you want this read in?
It's up to you, so the comments came in late, and this is what, the comment that you brought out that you thought was the biggest
Yeah,
comment.
he went through,
But the
it's,
other was just kind of cleaning
yeah,
up things.
if you look at, I think the last paragraph, you skip, not to say skip anything, but he makes reference to the fact that most of the comments are, I think he said drafting and minor in nature, with the exception of the comment about basin number 6.
Okay, yeah. His closing paragraph, although there are a number of comments, this is from the town engineer. A number of comments in this review, many of them relate to drafting, clarification, constructability. The most significant item relates to Basin 6, which has been discussed with the designer. We also note the design team has been very cooperative in modifying per our comments and peer reviewers' comments, for which we are appreciative. Therefore, this office remains flexible about approval should Conservation Commission desire to conditionally approve. So, the other issues, you did mention Basin 6, which you have just discussed.
Yes.
Yes. These are grades, so you'll need to clarify his comments with respect to these grades, these clarifications, anything needs to be changed on your drawings.
They will be.
Yeah.
I believe a lot of the comments apply to site plan review, so they'll have to be addressed ahead of that. Like I said, they're minor in nature, and a lot of them were related to drafting. So the information was fine, it's just he would like to see it slightly different.
And he wants a log for test pit 2-100. Okay, also logs for other test pits, so you have this letter, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll provide that information he's asking? Okay.
Just to go over the final beta letter of June 19th, 2023, which is kind of what I was paraphrasing in my report. So SW 30 was to consider dry wells for roof runoff. Dry wells added provide details. So I think we just need
it'll be a
detail of the dry well, not.
Yeah, it'll
Detail
be based
used.
off a cut sheet that comes from a manufacturer, but we'll provide the basic elevations as far as separation of groundwater, what's cover. It'll be a standard dry well detail.
Okay, because they'll inspect to make sure that the dry well is put in properly. And then SW 31, so the first comment was to consider raising the bottom of Basin 8 and redesigning Basin 3 and 8. Looks like the final comments from Beta was, if you go down to number D, where it says mean permanent pool depth is elevation 210, which provides a permanent pool depth of 4 feet, complying with a 3 to 6 foot maximum depth, complying with the requirement of 3 to 6. And Beta says that the maximum depth is 3 feet, where the mean depth is much less. So do you address that?
I believe so. Which number was it again?
It's SW 31D.
Basin 8.
So that was the reference of the basin. It has not. That is still one of the outstanding items that I mentioned.
Okay,
So there are points where it meets it, but the mean they're saying is much less. So, well, not much less, but depending on how you do it in the area there, it'll just need to be excavated more to get that depth
okay, yeah,
applicable.
because I think the message I got from Magularcy is that you'd be willing to do that.
Absolutely. It'll be revised in the plan.
That's what I thought. Just- And then SW 33. The total slope and retaining walls are depicted at the edge of 25-foot no alteration area, right? So you had riprap going to the edge of the 25-foot no alteration area behind several units, and we wanted walls. So you're now constructing walls?
I believe that's the reference to the detail. Those walls there brought the grade back up away from the wetland.
Okay, and that included 83 to 91?
Yep. So 83 to 91 is here, so the wall starts, hard to see on this one, but yeah, right in between 83 and 84, and it wraps all the way down to the infiltration basin 8, right near there.
And the retaining wall behind 96 and 97, 96 through 100?
Yeah.
Is that going to be a retaining wall also?
There is from 96 to 97 by that basin, but the basin itself would act as a wall there. I mean, there isn't, you have a berm that runs there, there's nothing we can, if you put a retaining wall there, the basin's still the basin.
Okay. What sheet would that?
Before.
Should be a zoomed-in version.
4B. So you're talking this area here, so the solid line coming through here is the wall. And then you lead
Right,
into the
behind
basin.
97 and 96, so that's a retaining wall, right? Okay. And then you have this, looks like a rip-rap slope heading down to the berm of the basin. So that's gonna be rip-rap below the wall? On a 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.5 slope?
Yeah, that's the steeper slope that was referenced.
And-
So there isn't, well, it's the detail that's on
Yeah.
the plan as far as, so there's multiple layers, but it'll look like riprap.
Okay, so it's still gonna be rip-rap.
Yeah, it's just pulled away, I believe.
And then behind 90, 90s, well, 98, 99, and 100, where also it looks like the slopes are pretty steep down to the edge of the no alteration area
They still are, I believe the reason for
with
that
the
one is
swale.
the need for the swale there.
So how are those slopes gonna be stabilized?
The swale is relatively flat, so on the other side, you had the slope going straight down to the no-touch. So that, top of slope to the toe of the slope is right there at the no disturb. This side, the slope ends prior to the swale, so it's level. Basically in the swale, from you're looking at it, it's going against grade. So it's not sloping down towards the no-touch, it's going kind of parallel to it.
Yeah, we just wanna make sure slopes stay in place and are stabilized, so. we
That should- I
need
mean,
to do
swale-
that as well.
A swale would be constructed to move the water, so it shouldn't be eroding.
Right, it's the slope above the swale and the slope below the swale. You know what the slope below the swale there is?
That's existing grade, that would be below it.
Existing grade.
Yeah, and it's relatively flat. I mean, the contours here, I mean, they're almost 10 feet apart, so.
Okay, so that was SW 33. SW 34 is just a recommended condition for a sign swept. I think we're fine with that. And then SW 38, recommend installing hard bottom floor base, right, so we talked about that. So I've also heard that hard bottom floor bays are easier to clean out than riprap, but whatever commission wants. And then SW 47 is again a recommended condition to include required submission of the final O&M prior to construction, and some language that was recommended to put in that, and I think you agreed to that.
Yes, that was related to the swales and the berms at the basins.
I think that covers everything. Like I said, I got the town engineer's letter today, but I did talk to him, and he's okay if the commission decides to close, and they agree to revise the plans. They still have to finish up with the planning board.
Okay. Dean, any questions?
Drainage basins, those are built underground, right?
Which ones? So there's a mix between subsurface and regular detention basins. So if I go back up to
The
C4.
individual house ones,
Oh, the dry wells?
dry wells.
Those are subsurface. Yep, so those would be underground.
And how does that interact with the swales? Is it intention that the water goes into the drainage basins, the dry wells, excuse me, and then bleeds to the swales?
So there's two, I think, again, we're going to the town engineer's letter. He had asked for two different options related to that. So generally with houses, you have an overflow up at the house, so you've got your downspout that comes down, and then overflows there, so normally it goes down, but if it starts backing up, it comes out the overflow. So that's one way to get it away from anything that's down gradient. The other is just to have a pipe that daylights out of the drainage, out of the dry well, and daylights somewhere down gradient.
Into the swale.
Potentially, I don't think it's modeled that way, so we wouldn't be able to do that in the case, so chances are it's going to be the overflow by the house. But that's, majority of them have that anyway, just as safety factor.
Anything else, Dean?
Yep. The riprap bottom for the basin, what's the cost difference for cleaning a riprap versus hard bottom?
I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of the times they need to bring in some type of vac truck to clean drainage structures. So at the same time, they would do forebays. So I don't think it's a large difference. The argument that would be made for a hard bottom versus riprap is that you can go out there and clean it more periodically with just a broom or something like that. But you deal with other downsides to it from a design standpoint. So like I said, personally, it's always been riprap. The stormwater handbook has recommendations for different types, one of them being a hard bottom. So in my experience, it's been a design call, but I can see the pros and cons of either one.
Landis, who's in charge of maintenance of this one? Will be you guys? Who's?
Private, yeah.
This would be
us.
HOA.
HOA, yeah.
So it could theoretically be, if it was flat bottom, it could be cleaned periodically.
The O&M's gonna have it done
Yeah.
regardless of what the bottom is, it has to be periodically cleaned and inspected, so.
The impervious layer that you had out here in this, whatever the other one was. What's that gonna be made out of?
You're talking about the barrier near the infiltration that we'd referenced? There's different types. We would ask that the commission leaves it open-ended, but there are multiple that the stormwater handbook makes reference to. There can be man-made impervious barriers, but you can also use impervious material, natural, clay.
Oh. Not just like a huge piece of plastic, right?
That's one of the options, is a plastic impervious barrier. I believe we would prefer some type
Yeah,
of
we
natural
prefer
material.
Some type of clay, probably, would be better.
Yeah, it would be. Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Kaylee?
No questions.
Betsy?
Okay, well, Dean, thanks for asking one of mine. The other one is, so Landis, what are good plantings for a wet basin? Because you do occasionally see basins with the wrong plants in them, or, what's a good planting for a wet basin? That you put into your notes? What do you want there?
Well, they should provide a plan of what, there's specs in the handbook that says what you should provide.
There are for rain gardens and wet basins, constructed wetlands. Wet basins, they don't provide that nice little table that the other ones do. I'm sure the plants would be similar, like you made reference to. I believe the language is something, wet tolerant or wetland species.
Right.
So,
You should work with a wetland specialist to come up with a scheme of plantings and
yeah,
soils.
generally a condition we'd ask for is that at the time of installation, we work with the commission as well as the wetland scientist to select the species that are available to us. And I think you also made a comment about the soil matrix. We'd want to make sure that soil is for those plants that are chosen, so that would all be done at time of installation,
Well, it should be done
prior to, well, you have to order everything.
pre-construction meeting.
Okay. Okay, either one, I just know we run up a lot of the times where we put something or we can choose a decent amount of them, but then you go to order them and they're not available.
Right, no, that's understandable, but to just have an idea of what you're going to choose in the soils and you need to change it, that's fine.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Anything else, Betsy?
No.
Al?
Well, I've got a couple of questions here. The first one, I see these very artistic arrangements for riprap where you're running the water into the basin, but it doesn't tell me what size stone you're going to use to keep it from washing away, and keep people in the neighborhood from picking it up and throw it in the water and things like that. So I think we need to have a specification for the stone for the riprap. And in the similar relationship, this plan for a wall shows that you have three boulders, perfect rectangles, piled one on top of the other to reach 7 feet. Okay, now, we know that natural boulders don't come in perfect rectangles. What are you going to do in between them to keep it from washing away when you get a heavy rain? We went through a lot of trouble with another project where it was a matter of just piling up some stones and calling that a wall. Okay, so it looks nice on paper, but I don't think we can find enough perfectly shaped stones like that without having to have something in between stones and to make it a solid barrier. So I'd like to see a better explanation of this new retaining wall. Maybe somebody can do that, but I haven't found any perfectly shaped stones laying around that weigh just those three sizes. So I'd like a little more thought into this, because you've got an awful lot of retaining wall.
Yeah, the site is a ledge site, and the stone is very slabby, rectangles, thick, of all different sizes, so that's why the plan is like that, because they are very rectangular stones.
Is it bluestone or what is it?
It's purple stone.
The blue stone, yeah.
Yeah, it's a deep purpley pink.
I know that that's the area where it was mined for quite some time, and I have stairs with big slabs of bluestone from there. But I think we need to have a.
Maybe it should
little
actually say bluestone, because bluestone will often do the right thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the natural stone that's on the site
Maybe-
that we're
So-
removing.
So maybe it should say that.
So I think we need to have a better explanation, that's all. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I want a better explanation that goes with this plan.
I think Al's worried someone's gonna haul in some random stone to get rid of it.
That was where it was
Yeah,
originally
and
quarried.
that's
where
what
it all
we've
came
been
from.
experiencing, and I want to make sure that we don't end up with another problem, especially since the people that are going to be living there aren't going to go out and rearrange the stones to keep it from eroding away. So I'm sure that since it's age qualified, you're not going to have a whole bunch of young guys that have the strength to move stones and shrink up the
They wouldn't be
spaces
moving these
between them.
ones.
Okay, so I want a little better explanation of that, and I want more information on the riprap, on the outlets into the basins.
Anything else, Al?
That's enough.
Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Okay. Is this, we close this, this is for an amendment. Close this with those conditions?
You close public hearing if everyone's ready to close public hearing, and let's wait. I would recommend waiting till next minute, meeting to just issue the.
Okay. Someone then make a motion to close the hearing?
So I think what was clear was, again, this is sort of a broken record, the detail on the walls with specification of the weight and the size of the stone. So I think your structural engineer detail shows larger stones piled on top of each other, but you generally want more information. And then on the riprap, the size of the riprap, right, the size of riprap for the,
Yeah,
it should be large enough that they're gonna stay in place.
And the plantings.
and the planting scheme for the wetlands. You know, with the tagline that says may be revised.
Yeah,
You mean the bound, the liner?
Yes.
Do you know what the liner will be?
Our feeling is that it's gonna be a clay or some type of natural soil that causes the impervious barrier.
Can you stipulate it? Because I guess that's what we're getting at. We like the idea of clay, plastic or something, less so.
Yeah, we would like to use natural clay.
So you can actually put it
Yeah,
in,
we can specify that.
yeah.
Do we have plaques shown?
Plaques, do you have the plaques on the plan, one of the plans that shows the location of the plaques? That be 50 feet?
I'm not sure. I'll make sure that they're on there, though.
That should be in our order, that make sure the
Right,
plaques
it'll also
are
be in our
on.
order, but it's good to have it on the plan. So if you can make those revisions that were agreed upon prior to the town engineer's letter, but any revisions that you can put on the plan, get it back to us.
Okay. That sounds
And
good.
the commission can close the hearing, and we'll wait for that plan and then write up the amendment.
And when is that next meeting?
July 12th.
Do you want it like a week before, or you just certain? This week? Same.
If it comes, the 10th is fine.
Enough
Is that
time.
okay?
Enough time.
Well, I'm taking a week next week off, so. I won't be here next week, so you can send it in if you want.
Okay. Okay, so we make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
500. And, so then we'll have that written up for
Thank you.
next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Me too.
If anybody has their windows down, come and find me.
Is there? Oh,
Thanks. Wondering why Dean
Comments
escaped.
made?
Probably
disappear?
rolling his windows up.
My poor dogs.
Town of Walpole notice of intent, Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
So,
Notice hereby given the intent of Mario Gomes of Lot 1, 400 East Street, map 27, Lot 381-5, Walpole, Mass. To construct a single-family house, driveway, utilities, and grading within the 100-foot buffer zone. Notice of intent, application, and plans are filed at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held in person, June 28, 2023, beginning 7 to 10 p.m. All interested persons are asked to be present. What do we have here? Okay, this is from town engineer. We have reviewed the stormwater infiltration calcs on said plan and agree that if the infiltration units are installed as shown on the plan, and the infiltration trench is installed along the driveway as shown, then at least 1 inch of recharge will be provided over the roof and driveway area. There's no further engineering comments or concern with this plan. Board of Health said its June 20th meeting voted unanimously that the board is not in favor of new construction within the 100-foot buffer zone. Plan is approved. The board urges the applicant to adopt standard best practices for mosquito mitigation, work with Norfolk County Mosquito Control for spraying and standing water treatments, and institute regular cleaning of gutters. That's it, isn't it? Okay. Representing the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is John Glossa. Glossa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. And I'm here representing Mario Gomes, who is the owner of a vacant lot on East Street, almost across from the park. Is that called Lewis Park? But, you know, the park with the statue between where Plimpton Street and East Street meet. So it's that field area you see, say, as you were driving away from Walpole Center and in towards East Walpole. It's that field that's on the right-hand side. And if you look at the plan, you'll see a house to the left there, number 400. So that's where Mario Gomes lives. He purchased this property maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and there's actually 3 lots. There's the lot where he lives, there's a vacant lot, a kind of an odd-shaped lot, sort of starts off as a triangle, only has a foot or so of frontage on East Street, and then there's this vacant lot, which is approximately 35,000 square feet, has wetlands at the rear. So if you walk there, you would see there's a post and rail fence sort of at where the field ends and the kind of wooded area begins. And for the most part, just behind that post and rail fence, it's wetlands. But then the wetland does extend out past this piece of property. It extends out into the field a bit where there's a little bit of a meadow in the field. So because it's on East Street, we have access to the municipal sewer. There was a sewer stub brought into the site. That was quite a while ago, maybe in the 70s or so. But unfortunately for Mr. Gomes, East Street was just recently paved. I think they paved it last year. So he has no access to that the town would allow to the water system. So we're showing a well. So if you look closely at the plan, you'll see that there's a well being shown here. And then, obviously, we're showing a driveway. There's no curb cut there now, but we would file with the town's engineer for a curb cut and the DPW and come into the property at the location shown, which is essentially on the right side of the property, and then have a driveway that leads to a 2-car garage off to the, it's on the right side of the building. Driveway will lead up and into the side entry driveway. And the other thing to note, just to point out that this house is a walkout in the back. So the lot is very flat, but including the wetland flags are not that much lower in elevation than the location of where the house is going. So essentially, we're putting this house on the ground and having a walkout in the back. So there'd be sort of no bulkhead door. You would just walk out of your basement right onto the ground in the back. In the front, the lot will be somewhat filled in so that, you know, it'll look kind of aesthetically pleasing. It wouldn't have all of the concrete of the house showing. It's pretty much a standard way to build a house for this type of a lot. And then you'll see behind the garage, we have to have a little bit of fill because a garage, unlike a house, there's no wooden floor to kind of hold the foundation together. So we hold that together with a little bit of soil leaning up against the garage. And then you can see there's a well at the rear, a proposed well at the rear of the house. So I would imagine what would happen with Mr. Gomes is the same thing would happen. There is gas available in East Street, but I don't think that the town, DPW or road commissioners are going to allow any excavation into East Street for at least 5 years. That's their policy. So the house would be heated by oil, would be my guess, or maybe they might come back with some other means, but it's highly unlikely that the town would allow them to tie into the gas main out in the street. Just a sort of a bad kind of timing issue here. And other than that, as the town engineer said, we provided infiltration chambers for the rooftop. You'll see that they're all in the front yard, and that's because that's where we're going to sort of raise the grade. If we put them in the backyard, then most of the time they'd be in the water table and they wouldn't work too well. So we're having those in the front. And except for the one that's right behind the driveway on the right rear. But again, that's an area that'll be lifted up by fill, so the chambers go in the fill. And along the right side of the driveway, there'd be an infiltration trench, which is essentially crushed stone, pretty much a standard way to handle runoff from the driveway. And as the town engineer noted, all of that has been designed to capture 1 inch of rainfall from the sky onto the pervious surfaces, being the rooftop and the driveway. Other than that, I think, Mr. Chairman, I can answer any questions that the board might have, or at least attempt to.
Thank you. Landis?
So, most of the construction of the house is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, just the rear portion, and some of the grading in the yard is in the 100-foot buffer zone. And you also have, you mentioned there's plaques, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4 plaques.
Yeah, I didn't mention them, thank you,
in this
Landis.
area, but that's good. I'm familiar with this wetlands because the abutting property did an ANRAD, and I remember going out there and reviewing this line. It's consistent with what that was. So I'm good with the line. And 25-foot, no alteration area. So the, behind the house where you don't have the grade lines, proposed grade lines will just be grass.
Behind, the limit of work, everything up to the limit of work will be a lawn. And the rest of it is just that field. It's not until you get behind the, is it shown? There's a fence back there, I think it's shown.
Existing post and rail fence.
Yeah. So
So
that's, it's
inside the
wooded
limit.
behind that, but obviously, we're not gonna be,
Inside the limit of work will be grass.
the limit of work is the compost
Okay, and
sock
where you have
issue.
on the plan, this is grass outside the original control, that's the field grass.
That's, yeah, that's a little bit of a missed,
Yeah,
yeah.
that should have been like,
Yeah, but only the area that's within the erosion control will be maintained as a lawn. The rest of it's going to be maintained the way it is now, which I think it's mowed a couple of times a year.
right, great, okay. It's pretty straightforward.
Dean?
Are you gonna dig it all for the foundation? Like scratch the loam off and just put it right on the
Well,
subsoil?
the footing has to be, the bottom of the footing has to be 4 feet below the ground.
Okay, so you're just gonna keep all that soil on site then? I'm asking about stockpiling, we're gonna stockpile,
Most of that soil is going to stay on, all of that soil is going to stay on
I
site,
need a bunch anyway.
yeah.
Alright, so, but are you gonna stockpile it all? If you do stockpile. you
Well, it
need
will be
to-
stockpiled along the edges of the excavation,
Okay, and those are just gonna stay within our,
within the
Enough,
compost
yeah.
sock, yeah.
okay, alright, great, no other questions?
Haley?
No questions.
Betsy?
No,
Al?
No questions.
You in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Hearing none, so we make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
second.
In favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Joe.
5-0.
You got more folks, are you staying, or?
Anything special in the standard order?
No special conditions, just standard boilerplate, conditions we have, reference in the evacuation plans.
Yeah, okay. So someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
500.
Castle.
Thank you.
On the bond. Rubber's not big enough to put anymore. Yours is definitely not. Mine is not. Actually, mine's not, I have a non-conforming lot. 10,000 square feet. Lot.
Very difficult. You can have a sheet or-
Oh, shit.
Is it after 7:15?
This is 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's 8:08.
Let's move this along.
Walpole Notice of Intent Conservation Commission, public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice that hereby given intent, Marco Gioso, 5 Folletto Way, map 8, lot 52-1, Walpole, Mass., to install a 32-foot by 48-foot barn and 320 square feet of driveway within the 100-foot buffer zone. Notice of intent, application, and plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in person, June 28, 2023, beginning 7:15 PM. All interested persons request to be present. Okay, what do we have here? From town engineer, we have no comments or concerns with this application. The Board of Health is June 20th meeting, voted unanimously, the board is not in favor of new construction within the 100-foot buffer zone. If the plan is approved, then the board urges the applicant to adopt the standard best practices for mosquito mitigation, work with Norfolk County Mosquito Control for spraying and standing water treatments, and institute regular cleaning of gutters. I think that's it. So, representing the applicant,
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Glossa, Glossa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. And actually, the applicant is sitting behind me here to my left, Marco Gioso. Back in the late 1990s, Marco's mother and father owned land. This land abuts Adams Farm, so if you were driving up North Street and you went past Adams Farm, the next driveway is Folletto Way. So it really doesn't look like a street. It was kind of a private development. We went to the planning board and showed them that we could create a public street and put in all the granite and all of that sort of stuff. But the Giosos just simply wanted 2 additional lots. So Mr. and Mrs. Gioso's house is the one that's right down by North Street, and then Folletto Way goes in kind of across from Brook Street. Again, it's just looks like a driveway. And as you drive in there, Marco's house is the house that's on the right. And I believe we either filed a notice of intent or request for determination when Marco built the house. And you can see Folletto Way. We didn't really show how that driveway connects, but Folletto Way just keeps going past where it says Folletto Way, and then you take a right, and you go into Marco's driveway, and you can see the existing house. His existing driveway, that's his garage on the left side of the house as we're looking at it. And so to the left, about 90 feet or so from his house, Marco would like to construct a 32 by 48-foot barn. It will be a slab. It will not have a full basement underneath it. It's just simply a barn for his use. You can see there's a chain link fence that's there now that essentially delineates the lawn area from the wooded area. We'll be sort of penetrating into that a little bit, but we'll be staying more than 25 feet back from the wetlands, which were recently flagged by Karen Skinnicatroni from Stoughton. And we obviously located them and did some topo and location work. We're staying 10 feet back from the 25-foot no disturb. We have compost sock between the limit of work and the wetlands. And we're showing, is it 3? We're showing 3 no disturb plaques to be installed along the 25-foot no disturb. So around the building, all of the area will be loamed and seeded, except for that little bit of area between the existing paved driveway and the barn, where we would, or Marco would be having that paved with asphalt. So there really isn't a lot of sort of complication here. It's a fairly simple project. And so I guess either myself or Marco could answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Landis?
Yeah, I think you answered one of my questions already. It's a slab foundation, and I'm sure I, as well as other commissioners, are just interested in what's gonna be inside the barn. Is this gonna be cars, or is there gonna be any?
Wine? I don't know. Marco can answer that.
Any pesticides, herbicides,
All the
petroleum?
junk that's in my garage now, I'm gonna put in there so I can put my cars in the garage. No, yeah, probably a car or two, and stuff.
Can you just come up to the microphone?
Yeah, speaking.
I'm sorry.
Just speaking.
Yeah, we'll probably park a car in there, and I
No
have a
pesticides,
lawn tractor.
herbicides, petroleum
No, no.
products or anything?
No, it's not gonna be like a garage or a car lift or anything like that. I'm not even handy like that. Just to, I do have a car, an extra car, so, I got kids who still live with me. They have cars, so. But probably like my, lawn tractor, a car, other stuff that we have in the house. All stuff that somebody would throw away when I die.
That's fine, as long as there's not gonna be anything that could leach into the wetlands that we would be concerned.
No, not at all.
Other than that, I don't really have any other questions.
Okay. Dean?
No, no questions.
Haley?
Is there a fence on the kind of, I guess, back side? Because I see you're taking down the chain link fence and you're kind of running it, it looks like a new fence around the no disturb area with the plaques?
It's funny you asked. There is a chain link fence like all along the back of my house.
Okay.
And up the thing, but
So you're gonna like connect the
My wife hates
fences?
that fence, so
Oh.
I was gonna just take the whole thing down, to be honest with you.
Oh.
I don't know if that's a problem or not, but
So the plaques then are just on posts, they're not attached to, there's not a fence going back there?
whatever they need to be attached to, there will be no fence there.
Oh, okay, okay.
So whatever the requirement is.
Maybe I'm reading the plan where this little dash
I don't know
line,
if I told John I was taking the fence out.
That's just
so-
the
No,
border.
it's on there.
Oh,
It
yeah.
says the fence to be removed.
Okay, yeah.
No, I
So the
see this
plaques
now.
would be on
The
granite.
call out.
Right, so I know, because they're putting the barn there. This line right here, that's just the no disturb line?
that's it.
Okay, so the plaques are just along the no disturb, okay,
And the plaques will be on granite
Standard details
posts.
for the plaques of
Yep.
posts. concrete posts.
okay. That's it. No questions? No more questions?
That's it.
No comment.
Al?
Are there roof drains for this barn?
I was not gonna put any gutters on it, no. Cause, the garage doors are gonna be in the front, but the roof pitches opposite the garage doors, so I wasn't gonna put any gutters on it, cause, I don't want any like ice dams or anything like that, so.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have a question, comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Hearing none, so make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 500. And standard order and, I guess, nothing's,
Yeah, I don't
Gotcha.
have any specific special conditions to add.
yeah, okay, someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
500.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, now that you've voted, I just want to let you know that when the town Adams Farm Committee built their pavilion, and the fire chief wanted a fire hydrant to be put there, Marco's father volunteered to allow the town to come off of his water main, which is in Valletto Way, and his firm, Gioso Brothers, P. Gioso and Sons, brought the pipe and put the fire hydrant up for Adams Farm. So just thought I'd let you know that.
I was aware of that.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Sean. Okay, thanks. See you, Marco.
Pick the good one, guys. I'm not supposed to say that.
No, you're not.
More?
You're not getting-
Oh, yeah, one more.
you're not getting rid of me yet.
Two more.
Two more.
No, sorry, three. The glass of show.
The
Yeah.
Blossom
I
Show.
like to line them all up.
No, just two more. Elmcrest and Gigi.
You've been hanging around for years.
This is great. Terrible for the environment, but great for John.
Well, thank you.
Like, we heard something, Paul.
I guess I can't say anything more. Covered it up.
Hunter Pond.
Town of Walpole requests for determination of applicability, Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent of Ann Burke, 14 Elmcrest Circle, map 24, lot 33 in Walpole, Mass, to construct a single-family home abutting Turner Pond at the rear of the property. Plans for this request for determination of applicability are filed at Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing in the above matter held in person, June 28, 2022,
Did you say a single
beginning
family
at
home?
7:20
No, this is a
PM.
septic.
This is a septic
This is a
system.
septic
Yeah,
system.
it
It
was,
was mistaken. If you read Landis's thing, it was advertised by mistake as a single-family addition.
Okay, so we have to read that aloud?
That's how it is in the,
Okay, all right, okay, so that's how we do it. Fine.
I forgot to cue him on that one, I'm sorry. It's
Is this the
not a
right-
single-family house, it's a septic system.
This is the right ad.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, I'm finished. Representing the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John
Wait a
Glosser.
minute, I have some
Oh.
things, here. Sorry.
That's all right.
Town engineer, we have no comments concerning with this application. Board of Health, at its June 20th meeting, voting unanimously, board has no concerns. Now, representing the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Glosser, Glosser Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole, and I'm here representing Ann Burke, who I think might currently be known as Ann Shaw, but since her information at the assessors say Ann Burke, that's who I wrote on the application. I was hired to do a upgrade plan for her septic system, which is sort of right now kind of a combination of some cesspools and some overflows and some leach fields and this and that. So we dug some holes and we saw a lot of stone and stuff, but eventually we were able to get into natural soil. And as in just about every instance where I've dug in this neighborhood, it's gravel. And water table essentially is kind of controlled by the elevation of the water in Turner Pond. So this is, I'm sure you kind of know where it is if you went down Mill Pond and took the left on Elm Crest. This is the last house on Elm Crest. This is a plan showing a new septic tank, 1,500-gallon, 2-compartment septic tank, and a leach field using Presby environmental septic pipe, which provides more treatment than a conventional septic system. And since, we're 50 feet back from the pond, so we meet Title V. There's no requirement for any upgrade or any vote from the Board of Health here, but since we are within 100 feet of what the surveyors identified as essentially the top of the bank of the pond, we filed with the Conservation Commission. And in sort of the method of what's we've always sort of been able to do, or where the Conservation Commission has been willing to accept a request for determination in these cases to simply not impede homeowners from fixing their septic systems in a timely manner. So this plan's been approved by the Board of Health, and we're just waiting for approval from the Conservation Commission. But I will tell you, Landis, you're correct. Those pine trees that are right behind the system are going to come down. So we can give you a revised plan showing the compost sock going around those pine trees. And those really aren't necessarily a function of the system, but those trees are dead. They're in bad shape. They're going to fall, and they're pretty big. They're big pine trees. So we can give you a revised plan tomorrow showing the compost sock going around those trees. So other than that, Mr. Chairman, I could answer any questions that you might have.
Landis?
So you're referring to the two right here that's right on
Yes.
the line?
Yeah.
If the commission is fine with it, I think we should just include that in the letter rather than wasting paper to wrap the erosion control around those two trees personally, but, so you just excavate out, lay the new field down, and then,
Cover it over. So I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, this is going to be done by Kenny Jones. If you ask me, the best, septic system installer around. Kenny has a great eye for this. They're not going to stockpile any material that they're not going to be using to backfill. So this system's not very deep in the ground, so probably most of the soil that he digs out of the ground, they're going to put right into a 10-wheeler and take it off-site. There is, I know you don't really see it on this plan, but there is actually a fairly well-developed path down the left side of this property, so it's not all that difficult for the septic system installer, who, again, I think, pretty sure it's Kenny Jones, to bring the trucks down there, take the material out, bring in the sand for the leach bed, and then install the system. I would anticipate no problems here at all, that this will go very quickly, probably done in 3 days, and backfilled and loamed and seeded.
are they gonna move the shed?
We don't anticipate that the shed needs to be moved.
Dean?
Yeah, no questions.
Okay,
No questions?
that's it.
No questions.
Al?
No questions.
I just have a question with, you're gonna remove the trees first,
Yes.
okay? And the stumps,
And he will take out the stumps.
so whatever, you have different equipment doing that.
Well, so he either hires, Brennan or Galasso to cut the trees. And then he uses he'll use, to build this, they use an excavator. So the excavator can pull those stumps out.
Okay, so that'll be, whoever's doing the septic system will pull the
Yeah.
stumps out of there.
Yeah, and the excavator, not only is it a big machine, it also has the thumb, so it can pick those up without making a big mess.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're gonna have bigger equipment in there to get the trees down.
They'll bring in a
It
crane.
is, the erosion control may be in the way, is my point. So you're gonna have to redo that, or let them come in first and have
Well-
erosion control behind the trees and then reestablish that.
Well, my advice is to let the tree cutter take the trees down without the compost sock. He's not softening or loosening up any soil. He's just gonna put
so
a
you're
crane there, and, it's
Okay.
it's no more timber like that. They take the
No,
tree
no,
down
no.
from the top down, so.
And it's big equipment, is my point.
It's big equipment, but as I said, there is fairly easy access there for them. I mean, I'm not all that familiar with exactly what they need for the crane, but it's a fairly stable, I mean, this is an area where the ground underneath is gravel, so it's a fairly stable area. I don't really anticipate any
So you won't
problem.
put the erosion controls down until the trees are cut down?
That would be my advice, would be to take the trees out of there, and then Kenny puts in the erosion control, and then Kenny pulls out the
Okay.
stumps.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. No, hearing none. So we make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? 500. Then this is determination for, what are you suggesting, -3?
Yes.
So -3 determination, so we'll move that.
And I would just,
With a
I would
question.
include the letter that the erosion control should be inspected by the conservation agent. So with that, the commission doesn't mind, I wouldn't revise the plan, I think, waste of paper, but we can put in the letter and have the erosion control inspected, and at that point, make sure it goes around that area where trees have been cut.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Someone.
I'm going to assume it's Kenny, so I'm going to let him know to make sure he does that.
So we'll make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 500. Thank you.
Keep some company up here.
Yeah, you can sit here.
It sounded like a gun.
That sounds more like a firework.
Firework?
It's a firework, not a gun.
Well, it's fireworks time.
Fireworks time.
Someone's testing, getting ready.
What?
Someone's testing them out, getting ready for the weekend.
My dog goes crazy.
Just remember, someone's gonna start work next week missing a finger, or several. Someone in America.
Probably more than
Wait,
just
how long does this thing?
someone.
Bang!
What do we got left?
That's hilarious.
This is a huge lot. 100,000 square feet. Well, this is another 2019?
Town Walpole amended order of conditions, Conservation Commission, public hearing, in accordance with Massachusetts general laws. Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Notice hereby given the intent of Alan Gary to amend the approved order of conditions, DEP number 315-1284, and 8 Gigi's Way, map 34, lot 40, Walpole, Mass, for changes to the foundation and culvert within the 100-foot buffer zone. Amended order conditions, application, and plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing of matter will be held in person June 28, 2023, beginning 7:25 PM. All interested persons has to be present. Let's see, from town engineer, we have no objections to the change. Design for the culvert, which is revised from a 4x8 concrete to a 6-foot diameter CMP. We note that a similar change was made on Lost Brook Trail, and that worked out very well. No further comments or concerns. It looks like the only comment representing the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Glossa, Glossa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. And Alan Gary is here with me. He's the owner of the property. And I believe that at least 3 of the board members were on the board, and maybe 4. No,
I
Bailey?
think Emilio.
Okay. I think you were on the board when we came in front of the board
Yeah,
with
under
a plan, and actually that, I believe, was an amendment of the originally approved plan that Michael Viano, the previous owner, had put forward, and he brought in Lucas Environmental, Tom Liddy, and the idea was that we were going to put in this 8-foot wide by, I believe it was 4 feet high, concrete culvert. And inside that culvert, or on the upstream side, I think we were gonna have a flashboard. It was gonna raise up the pond 6 inches, and that was going to at least eradicate some of the invasive species around the edge of the pond. I guess seemed to make sense at the time, seemed to be a lot of work just to raise the pond up 6 inches, but it was approved. I mean, they followed the regulation. More of the environmental stuff was done by Lucas Environmental rather than me. We just simply, drew the plan and did what they had asked us to do. So now Alan has, and then there was also a sort of a generic layout for a house that is, as you're looking at the plan there, on the right side. So this, first of all, let me just explain, do you know where Gigi's Way is?
I do, yeah, I looked it up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was assuming everyone knew where it was. This is at the end of Gigi's Way. It goes off to the left, and there's this driveway, crosses over an intermittent stream, and then sort of follows the upland around and then down to the right to the sort of the quote-unquote buildable portion of the lot. And we showed a generic house. Michael Viano didn't really know what he was going to build, but we did show it very similar to what's shown here. There was a detached building, which would be the garage or a barn, and then there was the house itself, which has a separate garage, right? So the other one, let's say, is a barn. And so all of the stuff that you see, so Alan has a more definitive idea of exactly, or he has an exact idea of what he wants to build, which is the house and the barn that's shown on the plan. That's slightly different than what was on the original plan, but does not encroach any more into the upland part of the property or towards the wetland than the previous building that you saw. So that is part of the change here, probably not as significant as what I'm going to explain. So Alan's idea was, he's not really, Alan's a landscaper, he's not really keen on the idea of, having these flashboards and lifting up the water to get rid of the invasive species. Alan can do that, on his own through manual labor, through working with the Conservation Commission agent and anyone else who wants to be involved with actually, physically removing the invasive species from around the pond and from other areas on the site where it is actually, I guess, quite grown over with some of these invasive species. Alan had asked us to show a 6-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe culvert. It's 22 feet long, and that's where the driveway crosses over the intermittent stream. So we were following, as the town engineer said, on the same sort of quote-unquote model as what was done at Lost Brook Trail. So today, Landis explained to me that at Lost Brook Trail, the width of the intermittent stream was much less than what we have here. So I told Landis we're going to go back to the concrete culvert. However, Landis, I did try to call you. Alan got a hold of the suppliers of these corrugated metal pipes, and they actually have an 8-foot diameter metal pipe. So if we can talk about this, but if we're allowed to change the plan, Alan's willing to show an 8-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe. And if you look, unfortunately, I have the sheets here, there's 5 sheets to this plan set. So the 8-foot pipe, half of that gets buried and filled with soil, and that creates the bottom of the intermittent stream. The pipe itself isn't the bottom of the stream. And that's the way we had shown it. There it is there. And the only difference is now is we're going to have an 8-foot pipe. That would be our preference here would be to, rather than have the concrete box culvert with the flashboard in it, to have an 8-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe buried halfway into the soil, creating a natural floor, let's call it, for the intermittent stream. And I believe, therefore, and I just ran the number, and it's really not too hard to do, what they call the openness ratio. So the openness ratio is the length divided by the opening, and it has to be more than 0.82. Our 6-foot one was just making it for 8 foot, so if we take 22 feet, we're going to divide it by pi r squared, 3.14 times 4 times 4. But when we're going to divide that by 2, because we're only going to have half of that showing, right, we get a 0.87 openness ratio. So we would meet the openness ratio, and as far as the width, we're the same width that was already approved. I think maybe you still think it's a little short, but it kind of meets what was approved. And as far as the depth of the pipe under the driveway, it's going to have about 4 feet of cover over it. So it's not going to, be right there where, it's open to the weight and to the elements. So I believe and everything else remains the same. The driveway has a retaining wall on it on both sides. There is the other part of the invasive species removal. This has to do with replication for actually what not Viano, but the people who he bought it from, I don't know exactly what the word is, let's just say mistakes. It's something, they had filled some wetlands and tried to do some replication, and it really didn't sort of take, and everybody recognized that. But Alan's willing to do all of that work that's in that Lucas environmental report that went with the order of conditions. So if I haven't confused you too much, I do have all 5 sheets of the plan with me. 5 sheets, yeah, that's it. If that's 5 sheets, those are the plans. yeah.
So I think you only dropped off 2 sets with the 5 sheets, so some.
Oh, I got 5, who needs 5?
I dropped off 6
Well,
of the half size and 2 of
No,
the
we
full
got,
size.
we got.
Oh.
we
Oh, you got the big ones.
Yeah, we got big ones over here.
Some aging here. Age preference.
Our eyes are better, come on.
Okay, anything else, John?
Ageism.
No, that's all. Either myself or Alan could answer any questions that you might have, Mr. Chairman.
Landis?
So a stream crossing has to meet the stream crossing standards, and that's what we were reviewing earlier. And I wrote in my report 1 through 5, which are the standards that have to be met. And one of them, right, is the openness ratio, which you discussed. And then the other one is that it has to, the opening has to be 1.2 of the bank full conditions. So it has to be at least wide enough for the bank full conditions, and then 0.2 more, so that on either side, there's some upland area. That's the requirement. And then so on the plan, the bank is the blue lines that are shown on the plan, A1 through A15 and A100 to A112. So it's supposed to span the channel and then an extra 0.2, so there's space on either side.
So what would be that width?
What?
What would be that width then?
I don't have the actual width of the stream. It's on the plan, but I don't have it exactly. So I think the culvert that was approved before was 8 by 4. So what John was saying, well, before 8 by 4 was approved, so.
Right.
If there was a slight discrepancy to what's on the plan and what's on the field, I don't know, it's a little hard to understand that was, or if it was missed that the original culvert didn't have a width of 1.2 bank full width. The commission approved the 8 feet, so if you approve the 8-foot embedded culvert, then the reconstructed stream should be the stream with some space on the edge. The idea is there should be some upland space on the edge so that critters can walk through the culvert, that it's not just water wishing through the culvert all the time.
This is a perennial stream, right?
This is a
No, no.
intermittent stream.
Intermittent stream.
So I would suggest you show that, the 8-foot culvert.
Right.
And the stream going through it, and this.
Right.
0.2 space on either
Right.
side.
Right.
And also maybe stake the 8 feet in the field, so the commission can have an idea of where that is in relationship to the stream.
Yeah, we can show it the way you're asking for it. I mean, I'm not blaming anybody, but, Lucas Environmental, when we did the 4-foot high by 8-foot wide, they said it met it, so, but I see what you're saying. It's, when you measure in between the blue flags, which are the top of the bank,
It was embedded into the wetlands, I mean.
It was the
it's
same.
embedded in 2014, so, what?
oh, you mean it wasn't required then?
I'm not sure I can't remember when the stream crossing standards was
Oh.
embedded into the Wetlands Protection Act, but it was somewhat recently.
Okay,
We can find that out. So, but you need to show that you have that width, bankful width
Yeah.
plus,
okay.
going through your culvert. And then, I have both the plans sitting in front of me, so I was just looking, so the original, the plan you have tonight, I think that you have the little, I think it's a wall, next to wetlands, 7D, wetlands flag 7D, near the garage, and then there's one opposite, at wetlands flag 121. Are those walls? Because they're not on the original plan.
These here,
Yep.
Yep.
those are, that's an infiltration trench.
No, next to infiltration,
Oh, but there is,
Yeah, there is a little,
circles.
there's a little bit of a wall.
Okay, so, and then if you go over
the
to the
exact
other
opposite.
wetlands at wetlands flag 70, you have another little necklace.
Exactly east.
opposite.
Yep.
In the back,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a little wall there.
So those should be labeled, and we should know what the wall is,
Okay.
the height and material.
Okay, so okay. The wall's like 1.5 feet high, though. It's not, but I'll take care of that. I see what you're saying.
So other than that, are there any other little additions that I missed, other than the configuration of the house and, you have infiltration on both structures?
And infiltration on the driveway,
Infiltration on the driveway.
right.
Okay. And then as far as, so the there was two things, there's a restoration area and there's a replication area, because there is some wetlands alteration occurring. So rather than saying whatever Landis wants, if you could put together a plan of how you're going to approach that, and then if it needs to be revised, that's fine, but I want to start with someplace.
Okay. I'll look through Tom, Lucas Environmentals, because I think they did that, so, but we can
You're gonna
make
do
sure
anything
that,
different.
yeah, Alan probably wants to read it also to make sure that everything in there is something that is palatable to him, so.
So that's it. I mean, I think it would be beneficial for us to kind of view the 8 feet over the stream, what that entails.
Okay,
With the embedded culvert.
okay.
Dean?
So the installation, the previous, well, the original order of conditions, was it square or three-sided? Or was it a
The original order of conditions was a bridge.
bridge?
It was one of the, like
So
a.
this is just cheaper? Yes, great, perfect. So the, and this is a giant pipe, so you have to dig in a stream.
Yeah,
Okay, and you have to operate a piece of machinery basically in the stream then, very close.
yeah, you're not gonna be in the stream, though. Gonna be on the.
On the embankment. That's a big hole. What do you guys do to like minimize?
It's not a very, believe me, it's not a very big hole.
Okay.
You can step over this
Will
stream,
there be running water or is it, no?
probably.
Sorry to interrupt you, John. This stream only runs pretty much in March. If you were to go down there right now,
It's just
very
a
little
pit.
water ever goes down that stream from the ponds. Maybe after a heavy rainstorm. I know in the order of conditions, it does state that it should be done in dry conditions, and I believe that's the reason why.
Okay, great, yeah, I was worried about
Yeah.
pumping huge amounts of sediment into a stream when you're digging a hole. Like, we've had to do stream bypasses when we dig in streams before, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is, it's, I didn't want to really say it, but it's mostly drainage that comes from Buckboard Road and North Street. And there's, a couple of, either 2 or 3 drainage pipes that empty right at North Street that feed this, and it goes through the pond, and then it comes out of the pond, and that's the intermittent stream, but it's not all drainage, so it does, qualify as an intermittent stream. But I'm telling you, I don't know about today, but I've been out there many times when I've been out there times when you can't find it. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's just grass and stuff, and where's the stream? And then, you may go back a month later, and then you'll see the flow of water. But there's sometimes in the summer, you can't even find it, so.
If anything, you may have a high groundwater than overland flow in that area.
Yeah.
And then,
It's not all, I agree, it's not all drainage. It's an intermittent stream. It can be flowing when it hasn't rained for quite a while, because in the spring, the water table is up, and it's breaking out of the ground, and it's creating the stream, and that's classic definition of an intermittent stream.
another curious question is, how are you going to rebuild the bank inside the pipe?
Well, first of all, the pipe's only 22 feet long, so it's not like, it's,
Can't drive a piece of machinery there, so just wheelbarrow and.
yeah, wheelbarrow it in, yeah. So there's, there's spec on the plan, there was before, on exactly what the soil is consist of.
Okay.
If it's not on there, well, I'll put it on there.
The sketch you submit, you should show the stream going through
Yeah,
the
sides.
culvert and how you're
Yeah.
going to,
Yeah.
usually it's not just a straight channel, it has rocks and
Yeah.
natural conditions. So-
Yeah, it was on the box culvert. I'm hopeful it got onto that plan, but I'm not always able to control every little thing that happens.
Anything else, Steve?
No more questions.
Carolyn?
Just the one for Landis, are the footpaths, new, footbridges?
No.
No.
Okay. No questions,
They're big footpaths.
sorry.
Well-
Saying it wrong, footbridges.
Betsy?
No, no comments.
Al?
The only comment I can make at the moment is that originally, there was supposed to be a barn for livestock to graze on the common land to make it look like it was part of farming country. That was the original thoughts, okay? So now we have a two-story garage for a landscaper, and
That was on the other side, Al.
Yeah, the barn was here, the barn was out in the middle of the field.
yeah, but.
Mine's on the other side
We
of
have a
Gigi's Way.
garage for a landscaper, and landscapers quite often have gas tanks and oil tanks and pesticides and herbicides and things, and I'm a little concerned about having a garage with this kind of stuff being stored in it without the proper precautions. And we don't seem to have any indication here how he's going to prevent some of that stuff from getting into the wetlands on either side of this.
So, Mr. Chairman, Alan would, if you want to add a condition, the barn, it's for personal use, it's
The
not
barn
for
or a garage?
garage.
It's garage. and you-
It's for personal use, though, it's not for business, it's not a business that's going to be run out of there. It's for his personal items.
That's the only thing that, I'm glad to see this going forward, because
Yeah.
we've been beating this one for several years here, and I'd like to see something happen, but I don't want to see a bunch of poisons in a place that we don't expect it, and end up having a catastrophe down the road. That's my only concern about this project.
Well, if you think it's appropriate, that Alan would accept that as a condition, that's not for business use, that's for personal
How come
use.
you kept calling it a barn? Is there a difference between a barn and a garage? Okay. Because I know out in the field, there was a thing being called a barn.
You're right, though, Betsy, there's a barn that's going to be built on the other side of
Right.
Gigi's Way.
Yeah.
That's all part of this whole project and all part of the vision of the original, or of the developer.
Yeah.
But you're right, yet to be done, but I think it has to be done, right?
Yet to be done because we're using material that's stored over there
Yeah.
for the culvert whenever this gets processed.
Also, you're calling it an agricultural operation, right?
Well, see, Michael was always telling us he's gonna have horses and,
Yeah, well,
you know,
Dreamer.
we take that with a grain of salt, but.
it was
I-
part of the
just-
planning board's approval, so as
You
far as
you
I
heard
know.
my concern here, and that's the only concern I have.
Okay, this walkway, is this the trail?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the trail that, so you can walk from Roscommon through to
through
Gigi's.
here.
I mean, that's the,
And get out to North Street, that was
yeah,
the
so
intent.
there's, you know,
that was, I think, Roscommon's responsibility, wasn't it? Are those bridges in, footbridges?
no.
They are not. But
No.
wasn't that their responsibility? Okay, that's not
Can't
your,
answer that question.
I don't, it's,
I know they are still currently working. There's some items that they're still working on. That might be part of their scope of work.
okay. That is not your responsibility.
What happens if they don't build the barn?
I think you can talk to the planning board, but I'm pretty sure all of that stuff is bonded through the planning board. The planning board has not released the full amount of the bond back to, you know, it wasn't Viano, he sold it to Whitman Homes from Canton. So I believe that the planning board is still holding money for these miscellaneous items to be
We should check.
completed.
Really?
We should check and see that, remind Roscommon that these are to be installed in that trail, to be, if it's not established. Some of it was kind of there to begin with, but some of it would have to be put in, I think. So we ought to, because it shows here that your water line comes up from that
Correct.
trail, and that is there.
In the easement there, yeah.
So that is in, because that was an important part of the approval was, you know, because Roscommon was such a long dead-end street that the planning board required them, and the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners, to bring the water main through to North Street. So that's in, and I believe, is the sewer in also?
Sewer is, I believe, stubbed at the top of the easement.
Right. So the sewer goes out to Roscommon also. So there's no utilities as far as municipal utilities coming in from that side. I think your power's coming in from Gigi's, though.
Power is coming in through,
Okay.
that's stubbed, right?
Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Would you take the microphone, please?
I don't really understand a lot of what you just said. I just had a couple of questions.
So
and-
identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, my name's Jennifer Coggin.
And your location,
I'm at Pheasant Hill Road in Walpole.
okay?
So I got the abutment of 350 feet. So we're right to the left, we're not quite on the map. But my question would just be, just for understanding, is the stream just being covered, or is it being directed in a certain direction?
No, it's just being covered.
Okay.
It's not going to go in any other direction
Okay.
than where it goes now.
Perfect. And then the other question was just that you had mentioned in the past plan that the plan was to raise the pond by 6 inches.
Correct.
Is that going to have any impact into like the wetlands pushing into any other properties around it?
Right. So the the short answer is we're not doing that anymore.
Oh, okay.
We're taking that, what I was calling the flash boards, which is
Yep.
essentially a board across the stream, so to speak, to lift the water up.
Okay.
That's not part of the project anymore.
Okay.
So the pond is not going to change in its elevation.
Okay, okay. So the only thing is just covering the stream, and then I think there was a note based off of changing some type of the foundation.
So, yes, so two things are happening. Right now, there's an approval from this board, from the Conservation, to allow for a concrete culvert, right, a concrete covering of the stream.
Yep.
We're just asking them to change that to a steel, a corrugated metal pipe.
Okay.
Okay, so that's really fairly simple. It's essentially the same size. And then if you look at the plan on the right side, the previous person that I worked for sort of just gave me a generic foundation. So see how it looks like a house right there where Stephanie's putting the cursor? Now Alan has a more definitive and exact foundation of what he wants to build.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the difference. That's why that was in there. So we wanted to let everyone know that there's sort of two things going on. Taking out the approval of the concrete culvert, replacing that with a steel culvert, and then putting in, this is the actual building that's gonna be built.
Okay, so there's no redirection of water,
No,
changing of the
none at
wetlands
all.
at all? Perfect. And then just for my curiosity, what were the invasive species?
I'm not an invasive species expert. I think it's bittersweet and,
Look at the document.
Our yard is loaded with bittersweet, so that
yeah, I
makes
think
sense,
it's
yeah.
bittersweet
But you have
and.
the documented what the invasive species are?
Yeah.
Okay,
from the
perfect.
original plan.
Okay,
Yeah, when
Any,
we did it originally, we had, or the developer, the builder had hired an environmental consultant. who
is that
did
the
all
Lucas
work.
group?
Lucas
Okay.
Environmental,
Okay,
yeah.
and would I be able to see the report that they had on that?
If you, yeah, I have it somewhere, I'm sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay,
All right, that's it.
okay, thank you.
Were there any Phragmites?
Is the
or what's other-
agricultural workers
I honestly
building
don't
gonna
remember.
Still on the plan, here's the man who may or may not build it, it's still approved.
I'm not pursuing that at this point.
Assuming what?
I was wondering if that agricultural workers building was gonna be built.
That was on this.
This was on that
It's
side,
it's
yeah.
still on there. I mean, nobody ever told me to take it off, but Alan just said he doesn't, at this point, really have any interest in
I have no
building that.
intentions.
So, common reed, Phragmites. Oriental bittersweets, glossy buckthorn, multiflora rose.
All good stuff.
Phragmites.
Don't get near them.
It's the tall.
It's bad.
It's all bad.
Once it's in your yard, it never.
Yeah, here it is.
There's nothing else. Someone make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Wait.
No,
You're
no,
gonna
no,
close
no,
the
no.
hearing. You're gonna close hearing, so we have no detail of the new culvert and we
Well, he's
have
gonna
no.
provide that,
de-
right? Or do we wanna
well,
wait?
Well, Glossa wants a 4 here, so what are we gonna do?
I would rather you not close the hearing.
All right.
Okay.
Well, why don't we continue the hearing?
Stake the 8-foot area out in the field, so I'll go out, take a look.
Yeah, there's a site visit in here.
And, supply us with that detail.
Okay.
Can we get pictures?
Um,
I move we continue the hearing.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Well, we gotta pick a date. Can that be done by July 12th?
Definitely. Right, you want to get going.
Please, yeah, I'd like
Are
to
you
get
gonna
going.
be able to do that?
Yeah, if you get me the material, we'll make it
You're
happen.
gonna be off when? Have to be done. So you got,
Should I continue the
you
hearing?
got 2 days to get it done.
Well, I mean, do you want to see it before you go on vacation? Are you going to be in
No, you
Friday?
can get it in, just get it in.
Okay,
by the time.
we'll do it next week, so make sure you have time to see it. We'll get, all the revised plans in next week, and then when you come back.
We can continue this until July 12th. I've got a 7:20 on here, is that still available?
Yes.
Till 7:20 on July 12th, so make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And those
All in
revised should be
favor?
sent to
Aye.
What's that,
I
Lance?
should be sent to DEP,
Okay.
sorry.
Almost
That's it.
perfect, John. Almost perfect.
I got the short end of the stick.
Last, and you're last, that's all right. Couldn't let them all go through.
Okay. Are we done with hearings?
No, we're not done.
I said, are we done with hearings?
Yes,
Hearings here.
Okay. That's, Pinnacle? What have we got?
So, what are you doing next?
You ready?
Pinnacle.
You got Pinnacle?
Okay,
The order of
so-
conditions?
At the last hearing, you closed Pinnacle Point, and then put on the agenda for the discussion of the order of conditions for tonight. So in my report,
In the report?
yeah.
Very good.
Good night, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think as a single-family house, it's a pretty standard design for a single-family house. So the work within the riverfront area was the issue that the commission was discussing. And I think at the last meeting, you decided that it was a redevelopment of degraded riverfront area under 10.585. So under A, at a minimum, proposed work should result in improvement over the existing conditions of the capacity of the river area to protect the interests identified in the Act, Mass General Law, Section 40. Other standards also address just the work should be further away from the riverfront area as possible and should not have more degraded riverfront area than is already degraded, but there's a whole lot of space in between the lot and the river, which is where the riverfront area is. And I think we briefly discussed this last time that, and I ran it through town council, that can the commission condition this lot with a condition that refers to doing work on the adjacent lot, which seems to have several names, one being 25C, one being 9 Pinnacle,
Crazy.
and one being map and lot number, which is owned by the same entity, and town council said yes. So the requirement for a improvement over the capacity of the river to meet the interests of the act. So what the applicant had proposed is the 20-foot revegetated strip on the property. And so I think the commission should consider going a little further than that and do some protection on the riverfront area, which is in between the lot and the river, on lot, let's just call it 25C.
That's the big one.
Which is the big one. Yes. So a suggested condition that I had was in place, so on the subdivision plan for Pinnacle, on the order of conditions for Pinnacle, for 40-odd years, if not longer, there's been a trail running along the river on the property.
How close to the river is it?
It kind of goes in and out because it has to. I mean, it's not like a straight thing.
So the Pinnacle subdivision plan showed a 20-foot trail easement along the river. So it was further down from where the trail actually exists now. It was kind of half in the wetlands and half out of the wetlands. It was just a straight line along the boundary of the bank, pond, river boundary. So what I was proposing the commission, if they, wanted to do this or something like this, being protecting some of the riverfront area, is in place of the existing 20-foot path easement, which was never recorded. It's on all these documents, but it was never formally recorded. As shown on the Byrd Historic Mill Complex Pinnacle Drive plan by GLM Engineering dated 8/5/2021, and this is the SORAD plan. So this is the plan that was used during the delineation of the resource areas. That a 25-foot trail easement running parallel to and upgrading of the A and B series wetland flags shall be deeded to the Conservation Commission prior to any work occurring on 24A. The easement will remain in a natural condition other than a walking trail, of 3 feet or less in width, to preserve a portion of the existing riverfront area and a historic pinnacle trail. So if you look at the plan, the wetlands goes here and there, and it would be like the 25-foot, no alteration boundary as well.
Where, would that have connection, or would that just be,
Right now, it dead ends because this was not recorded, and the property owner at the far end has,
which far end?
It's this
No.
Pinnacle Trail that's on every single week.
it's beyond the, which way are we going? If you're coming from Washington Street, you come up through the, River Walk, and it continues on this property along Bird Pond. And it would have connected to the Pinnacle property, which is conservation property, behind the houses
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
Pinnacle Drive, and what's that, Misty, at the end, the other, that cul-de-sac.
Let's
at
do
the
that,
end.
this works good for me, this.
So, but it's been, because it was never recorded, one property owner
Yeah,
has
puts the
blocked that
fence
off,
over, I remember all that jazz now.
Yeah.
so.
Construction fence, everything.
But I think we need this to get up to that point, and we'll see what happens about being able to connect over to the Pinnacle property.
Right, and there's a lot of sort of word of mouth, like, oh, of course we want a walking trail there because it's nice. But it never got recorded, and this is still just, oh, it's nice, but it would make it,
Official.
it would nail it down in a way, and the trail is there, people.
Right, this is before the wetlands.
Yeah, that's great.
So this is the subdivision plan. This shows the proposed footpath easements.
So, anything else we need to, I think we're.
Oh, are they gonna do the plantings still on the 24? Is this gonna be in lieu of all?
You guys need to decide this. This is your condition.
Well, in terms of the parcel, well, Jack, can I talk?
You may.
In terms of the parcel itself, you know, we don't have enough details, I think, in terms of what they're gonna do when they remove that material. So in terms of the house and the project, you know, I would like to see the wall design, a potential wall design, because they're gonna build a wall. And I want them to do the plantings too, and this 25-foot walkway. Thanks. There's no wall detail here, and we're really all about the wall details.
Okay, so let's take these,
So,
what you suggested is how are they gonna clean up the property?
No,
Okay.
no, I know they're gonna just take an excavator. It's when they, after they
Yeah,
clear.
there's a lot of junk there, so I think your question, if I understood correctly, we wanna know what they're gonna do with that stuff that is there that has to be removed.
No, my is, when they're done removing all the material, they're gonna have like an almost that slope is gonna be so steep. And so they're, in order to, and in order to keep this lot buildable, they're gonna build a stone wall,
Pass this
or
down.
retaining wall, to make this lot flat.
So we wanna, okay, so.
I'm thinking, I'm guessing, that they're gonna build a wall, and, cause they've done it all over the place, so,
Do the other houses have a wall behind them? Like the one just next to it, is that a wall, or is that just like a
it's like
fence?
super steep.
And a fence to keep it from falling over?
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's not a wall.
I don't think they put any walls
I don't
You don't
think
think
there's
they're
any,
gonna
I
put
don't,
walls?
on the.
But if they do, they should send us the detail.
All right, so you don't, not concerned with the material that's there and where it's gonna go,
Gotta go to
removed off-site,
oh, yeah.
oh, yeah.
Can't just be
as
bulldozed.
opposed to shoving it down the back.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they have any, God, if they did that, that would be so bad.
So what material are you thinking they're gonna remove?
The stockpiles of all the
All
stuff.
that, the concrete.
The
there were
concrete, the
slabs of
roads, the
concrete.
shingles,
The piles.
the piles.
Yeah, there
Because
was,
their grade changes are not.
Yeah, that's all they're gonna remove.
One thirty-eight, and the existing grade is 138. So I don't think they're really proposing on hauling out a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I think they're proposing on just taking the surface stuff off.
That's right.
okay, that's,
That
do we
assuages my
need to
concern.
address that?
Only taking away the stuff that was
What they-
recently put there.
That they remove it from the site? As-
Yes, if
Because
you.
this
Yeah, let's put
line-
that as a
Yes,
condition.
yes.
Okay,
amongst yourselves.
so that would be one condition, that the foreign material would be removed from the site.
Oh,
I
okay,
wouldn't use the word foreign.
well, here's the thing, it's,
Well, yeah, all right, so what's the non,
I would just say any material removed.
any, well, because some of it, you got soil, or whatever, that doesn't have to be removed. It was the concrete, we just
You know
don't
what you
want it
could say?
buried.
You know what's a great word? Anthropogenic.
We often use man-made, but we could use.
Come on,
human-made.
anthropogenic's such a great word, though.
You wanna say- can you spell it?
Anthropogenic?
Anthropogenic.
It's an environment. It's a great word, put it in there. That's a $12 word right there.
okay, and I actually want the trail.
Oh, that's another item. Let's get
Anthro-
one at a time here. We want the material, all right,
what
describe the material that we want removed. Well, how would you describe it?
Man-made.
The concrete, rubble.
Native.
We usually use man-made.
Okay.
but such as
Concrete,
concrete.
okay.
Asphalt.
Such
Okay.
as, right,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
it's
I don't
not
do-
like, oh, we found
There
something
might have been
else.
some asphalt. in there, too.
Non-suitable material such as,
There you go. If it's
See, the
gonna be
problem with
removed,
that is they're gonna do it anyway, they have to flatten it and put in a house.
if it's
and
gonna be
so it's-
removed-
that's-
Okay.
We're just telling them to
So we
build
want
a
that
house.
removed. What's the next item we want on here? We want the trail is not on this property.
No, but the town
So what-
council,
So how do we word that?
it's because they own the other parcel.
So the wording I used was to refer it back to the historic, the Bird Historic Mill
Okay.
Complex, Pinnacle Drive plan drawn by
Okay,
GLM
All right.
Engineering dated 8/5/2021, which is the SOAR reg.
okay, all right, so we'll put that in. That would be another
that'd be another condition.
So do you want to use the wording that I
Yeah.
have in the?
Yeah, does somebody, anybody have anything different they want to add to that? Okay. The one thing you have up here, is that supposed to be MGL?
Yes.
Yeah, Mass General
Okay,
Law.
Just if we are using that wording. All right, what else do we want on here?
And the other condition I was suggesting is that, there's no work other than conveying of the trail easement shall commence under this order of conditions until all administrative appeals are resolved.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep, let's go for it.
that's good.
Hate that one.
You hate that one?
I love that one.
I see.
They are going to.
Um,
I think we need a test pit for the infiltration chamber.
Okay. All right, so provide,
Were we concerned about toxic materials at all on the site? I mean, since,
he said somewhere along the line that this property, this whole property had a 21E, I
it
believe,
had,
wasn't
so
it?
we need to see the evidence that there was a 21E.
They did a 21E on this parcel?
I think he said the whole,
They
The
did a
whole property
21E
had
of the
been-
factory in the 80s, he said.
all right, so we want, all right, a condition to provide information certifying that there is no hazardous or toxic
Okay,
material.
So
Is that the proper wording for a
test pit shall
21E?
be observed by town engineer
The
Did they
test pit,
just-
that's
for
another
the
order.
infiltration system.
The infiltration system test pit shall be witnessed by the town engineer. And information provided to Conservation Commission.
Okay, and back to the toxic materials?
Now, we're talking about what you
So what do you,
provide
I guess
certification that there is no, is the proper wording toxic or hazardous material are on the site?
because we heard it was an ancient dump with Lord knows what in it. And so, okay, what do we do with ancient dumps? I mean, if that's the big
Is that-
conclusion.
Is that adequate wording?
I think, so the so Wetlands Protection Act states that if they comply with the Mass Contingency
Plan?
Plan, that they've met the requirements of the act.
Oh, so legally, that's
what I
not,
would say, that they can show, document that they've met the requirements
Okay.
of the,
so they have to show a document.
The MCP,
if you want that.
the MCP is a
Well,
due
I mean,
diligence
I think
document.
if that's what this is.
I'm sorry, two people are talking at the same time, I can't.
All right, go ahead.
What did you say?
The MCP is a due diligence document. So if they meet the MCP, which is the environmental regulations of Massachusetts, then they've already, they don't need to submit a form, it can be done with an LSP or, but if they've done a 21E back in the day, that could be sufficient.
Right,
That's outside the purview of our board.
It's hard to condition another state regulation, other than saying you have to meet this state
didn't we
regulation.
require it for Burns Ave? I mean, so there was the claim that this was an ancient dump, who knows what,
No.
Betsy's trying to say is that she wants to have the certification or proof of documentation that it's part of this file.
yeah.
Okay, so what's
I
the
don't think you can
wording?
have it both ways. You can't say we've got an ancient dump with unknown stuff in it, and then go, but we're not gonna just make sure everything's okay. However, that's, can be worded. I mean, and we did do it for Burns Ave.
You can ask.
Well, for Burns Ave, he did do environmental remediation, and he did,
That was, yeah, there was,
there was some stuff that had to be removed,
were
and we did get the documents in regards to that, yes.
Okay.
So Betsy, what's
so-
complicated here,
It's complicated.
being a former environmental consultant and did this,
It is complicated.
is the ultimate action for any sort of identification of toxic or hazardous materials will be to remove it. So he's gonna do that already. And we're gonna condition the removal of
He's
that.
not gonna dig that deep. He doesn't want, I mean, he's just gonna remove some recent stockpiles of
He's got
things
to dig a
from.
foundation for that house. He's gonna dig a ton of soil.
We have in the past required that an LCP be on site,
LSP, yeah.
LSP be on site during excavations.
You
Okay.
could have him do that during test pitting.
If that's the wording, I mean, I just wasn't, thank you for the wording. The
Agreed.
spirit of it is that if there's an ancient dump of unknown things that has been causing all this turmoil, then we can't just suddenly, Landis, you're looking puzzled. We heard over and over again that there were things dumped from Bird and,
Digging a foundation hole.
if you're digging the foundation, and what are you unearthing?
Then under Mass General Law, under the contingency, he has to report it. It's not the Wetlands Protection Act that's saying, if he doesn't, he will be in big trouble.
It's perjury,
So we
you know?
can't like override that
Oh, okay,
regulation.
all right, do it the right way.
We can say, and LSP being on site during construction, we can say, you know, show us that you've met the mass contingency, but we can't latch on to another regulation and say, you know. we're
Okay,
gonna
so
be-
how do we word this?
Word it the
You want an
correct way.
LCP on site
If that's
for
what-
foundation
If that's what. we're
Licensed
thinking.
site
for
professional.
excavation.
Yeah, a licensed
Okay.
site professional.
Or I would say, you know, have them, a licensed site professional review open excavation or something. Because then foundation's gonna take days to dig, and LSP is expensive. I mean, not that it
LCP
matters,
on-
but
On site for, is there any more, for any excavation or for the foundation excavation?
the foundation.
Well,
My
certainly,
impression that is, that, yeah. you
That's
should-
the
For the foundation.
They're
Okay.
gonna dig it once, they're gonna, yeah.
but
That-
some
we'll
humans
take care
rec
of it.
room, it's gonna be down there.
So, Alice
LSP on site.
shall be on site.
For foundation excavation. Cover it? All right, what else?
Not just the foundation, he should be supervising the cleanup of the entire site. We don't want the contaminated materials under the lawn or in the lawn.
Okay,
Uh,
all right. And
The
any-
entire site has to be
And any other,
clean.
and any other excavation, any other site excavation.
Oof, okay.
Well, what, that,
I think that rather than doing that, we should probably, I think that doesn't contradict, but the first condition was all man-made material needs to be removed from the site.
yeah.
I don't think we need an LSP on site to confirm that, you know? It's gonna be dirt for a long time, it's easy to inspect it, so. Like I said, ultimately, it was, the foundation, understandable, you know? You wanna see them dig down, sounds great, take a look at the hole, make sure there's no, like drums, literally drums, I've seen it happen before, fine. Atlantis is right, if they do find that, they should call an LSP, they're obligated to under Mass General Law. So that's under any developers, or any property owner's requirement. So, you know, when it's removing the material, like I said, he's gonna take that stuff off-site. The first condition, taking all the material off-site, will loop in any sort of surveillance during the material removal. So if we just say all piles must be removed from site, that's our goal, that's what we want. We don't need an LSP to approve that.
But you do need it for the foundation.
Well, it'd be good to have, you know.
I guess we can't have, it shouldn't be both ways, that this is an ancient dump and we're not gonna treat it like an ancient dump anymore.
Well, there's big difference between
Surface
dump
piling.
and hazardous materials.
But-
There's a big difference.
But Bird,
Burns, whatever was there, is not hazardous
What's
material.
Burns? What was Burns
No,
Ave?
Burns Ave. It was
no,
another
Bird, I say, so,
I
Bird,
don't think that Bird dumped on this site. They used the site, and
okay.
what was allowed when they were using it is different than what would be allowed today.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't know what's there, but it wasn't a dump. It was a parking area for their trucks and things like that.
And it was filled,
But-
it's filled in.
But there
They probably
could
filled it
be
with removal.
some stuff there, yes. But I don't think calling it a dump is gonna get us anywhere.
I
Let's-
actually wasn't,
Let's leave that
haven't
word
been
out.
calling it a dump until last week when we kind of voted that it was, remember?
Well,
All right,
the dumping came in recent years. The dump
Let's
go.
didn't
I
come
agree.
while it was a factory.
I agree
Okay.
it came in recent years,
All
but
right,
then.
let's move on.
last
What do
week
we want
voted
in
it-
the order?
We want them to clean the site up to
Okay, well, how do you want that worded?
Just like you said, piles gone, off-site.
remove
We've already
all
said that.
unsuitable material.
We've already said that. I think, didn't we?
That's all I care about.
Okay, so what
That-
else do we
that's
need,
enough.
Jack? What else do we need, Jack?
So,
Yeah.
so remove not man-made, but unsuitable, so that's sort of up to interpretation. But,
Yeah,
LSP shall be on-site for foundation excavation.
Yeah.
And then,
Can I just tell us, can I just remind us what we voted on last week? It's absence of topsoil, junkyards, and abandoned dumping grounds previous to 1996. We voted that there was an absence of topsoil, well, I don't know what the stuff was growing in, but junkyard and an abandoned dumping ground. That's the actual wording,
well, not all, just one.
which
It
I,
doesn't
by
have
the
to
way,
be all.
voted, was not.
Betsy,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be all. Clearly not a junkyard, it just has to be one,
Okay.
so.
It's and/or.
All right. Did we state in here that
Dumping
we
doesn't
determined
necessarily
that this
mean
was, we got that in there, that this is, does not come under, or it, because of the revisions to the property, it is covered by the Rivers Act. This was an
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Is that in the order now?
Yep.
We should make a statement to that effect, that this is,
This is
is covered
river,
by the Rivers Act because
this is
it,
riverfront property.
because because of revisions made to the original property according to, whatever it was, the 2006 plan or whatever. You had that.
Oh, right, that was just if it, yeah, I know what you mean, yes.
We should state that
Yep.
as, that, he may appeal that if we don't have it in there.
Okay. Right,
It-
right,
it's
the lot
shown
was
the-
recorded prior to, 19.
Yeah, it's in the, some of this paperwork we've
Yep,
been
I
going
know what you're
through.
talking about now, yeah.
Okay. Anything else for the order?
And we
You do
did,
anything,
we did the
Jack?
trail.
Do we have the planting, did he give us planting, what he's gonna plant in that strip?
Taylor's got it.
You have a
Yes.
list?
Yeah, he
Okay.
does, more or less.
Okay.
But you're right, he doesn't have any grades, so if you look at just the plan, he's just sticking those along the bank.
Okay,
Just
so
sticking
we
those
want
It's not on the bank, the fourth bank.
we want a grading plan of the plantings. Is that what you would like?
If he's gonna change the grades, he might not.
Well,
change.
if he doesn't, they just, we want to know what it is.
Okay.
Okay, so we want a grading plan of the planting area. Anybody else have anything else they want to put in here?
Were we gonna do the easement, or is that
The
just
which?
different?
Yeah, we are doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, that
Okay.
was,
Do you wanna include the two suggested conditions I have in my
Yeah.
report?
Yes.
absolutely do it.
Yes. Do we want anything else?
Can you think of anything, Jack?
Can you read those back to us?
Okay, the two I have in my suggested conditions I have in my report. Then I have remove unsuitable man-made materials.
Love it.
An LSP shall be on site for foundation excavation.
Can we spell that out for them? Licensed site professional?
Sure. Then the condition that the lot does not predate the riverfront area, because it's recorded in 2004.
I think that should be, we should state that as a finding for on this, as the first, or the first order that we have, we established that.
Right, usually I write a finding
Yeah.
of the resource areas and the applicable
Yeah.
sections.
I think we need to explain
Yeah.
why, and reference the
Yeah.
plans that were on there, to cover that.
And then grading, submit grading plan of the planting area at the pre-construction
Right.
meeting, or prior to the pre-construction meeting?
It's all glossy
Yeah,
at
you
this
want to see that before, right?
Yep.
Or for the pre-construction, whatever, be prior or
And
however you
no,
want it.
no removal of vegetation and materials in the riverfront area behind the proposed building.
Plantings.
There's nothing there.
That's really not,
Where are you getting to?
All right, Landis, I worded it wrong again.
it's,
I think
that's
that's how it
not
works.
this lot. Right, I mean, this lot ends at that. We're talking about, we want the, with the condition, one of Landis' conditions is the, along the riverfront, which is down here.
That's right,
Yeah, and that's that's one of the conditions.
yeah.
Okay. All right,
I also have the test pits will be witnessed by the town engineer.
Right. Thanks.
yeah, the,
Yeah, test pits shall be observed by the
Yeah.
town engineering for the infiltration system and provided to the commission.
And the grading plan for the planting area.
Yeah, that's what
And are we not including in certification if there were no toxic or hazardous material on site?
I don't think we need
You
to,
can
right?
state that they have complied with the mass contingency plan, but it's those regulations that govern if you have to remediate or not
Is it-
the Conservation
Right.
Commission. That's what the
DEP
overstuffing-
regulates that.
overstuffing. You can just, yeah, I mean, you can state that all state and local, other federal, state and local requirements can be met, or specifically put in that,
Provisions
if we forgot
40,
anything
that
that's
CMR
included in what we
310.40. 40.000.
reference what's in the regulations saying if you meet these requirements, then you're okay. Then you've met the.
Do you have to
Massachusetts Wetlands
demonstrate that you've met the requirements?
No. You don't have to prove.
So that's what I mean, that just doesn't seem,
Well, I mean, they have to do it by law, Betsy. So if they don't do it, then they're breaking the law. Let's say they find a drum and they just bury it over and that's breaking the law. So we can't, this board does not regulate that.
all right.
It's
Okay.
the same with any other regulations.
Or building code, like the building inspectors, it's the same thing.
Okay, do we want anything else?
No.
I want it all.
Okay, so we'll make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait, I want to.
0-0. If you think anything else,
Too
put
late.
it in.
After you voted.
That was John Glass.
That
Oh,
was the
now
best.
that you guys
Now that
closed,
you're
I have this
closing.
information for you.
That was nice information. Bring one in.
We have something to sign.
What's that? Enforcement orders,
Nothing new.
great.
Extension for Swan Pond.
What's reorganization of the board?
Next week,
What's that mean?
We're postponing it till.
Doug and
Oh.
Emilio aren't here, so we'll
next time.
get into that at our next meeting, assuming we have everybody here. So you can think about, if you want to make any changes or whatever on who does what. So, we got that. Did we have minutes? No.
No.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. Landis, did you say that Al couldn't vote on,
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can't vote on the pinnacle.
so just change the numbers. Someone else has to move it. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Done.
All in favor?
401.
I didn't watch the videotape. Or did you?
So Al Getz was not here. He missed more than 2 meetings.
Yeah. Okay. sorry, but I just remembered Landis
You
had
missed
said.
1 or 2 meetings, or you can
We should probably do that correctly, since this may get appealed. Okay, nothing new. North Street capital budget, nothing to do,
No
nothing
master
more on
plan
that, is
update.
it? North Street capital budget.
What? Nothing North Street, no, nothing North
Okay,
Street,
Will
no.
Pond access, nothing there. Pinnacle Trail, nothing new.
Well,
And-
no, did want to bring up an issue with Pinnacle Trails,
Yeah.
which is on our agenda, so. Somewhere. So I received today, first of all, we received a request for determination for, to go into, to 9 Pinnacle Lot 25C and do some vegetative management practices there, cutting vegetation. Lou Petrosi was told that I couldn't put him on the agenda until August, to the August agenda. So he sent me an email asking to do some vegetative management, because under the regulations, if you're going to be doing some test pits for design, then you can go onto the property and do the test pits as long as you're, minimizing alterations and taking the least path of resistance. He does have to do some test pits for the 40B application he's submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So he's shown two areas where he's proposing infiltration units, the purple areas there.
Okay.
I know this plan is small, I apologize. And he is requesting to use a mini backhoe and, one of those things that pulls and crunches all the vegetation in its path to clear this area in purple.
A brush hog.
Whoa, look at it all. Why does he want to clear that much space?
He wants to clear that whole area.
Yes.
Well, he doesn't need to.
And that's not even the second
More
test
than-
pit area.
If he's gonna do that, he can clean it up too.
No.
That's the slope area, isn't it?
No,
That's
it's-
way too much,
it's
that's
the
way too
riverfront.
much clearing.
That's down,
Oh.
down below where
Pass.
the old foundations
He needs
are
a
and
mini.
other areas.
A mini. You know how wide a mini is?
So engage a
What?
bobcat with forestry mulcher to cut any brush to allow passage throughout the site. Attaches a photo of the type of equipment. No tree removal is anticipated through this phased work. One of the areas is cleared for brush. The survey crew will complete additional survey work for the project. In addition, soil testing borings will be scheduled in the areas of the proposed stormwater management basins. Any excavation will be limited to 3 deep holes in each of the proposed stormwater infiltration basin. The excavation will be conducted with a mini excavator. The proposed location of the test holes and borings will be shown on the map. The location of the proposed test holes is within previously developed or degraded areas of the site. In addition, it is expected that the proposed excavation activity will be more than 50 feet from BBW or bank of Bird Pond. Therefore, no additional measures are proposed at the time. So my experience is usually when I'm contacted about doing test pits on a site, is they just take the mini excavator and move along, kind of crunch down a lot of the vegetation to get to the hole, dig it, and then go off to another area. They may clip some woody vegetation if they need to, but I've never had a proposal to clear such a large area. So,
Okay, so,
Denied.
what?
Oh, okay.
Right, so
That's fine.
I just wanted to bring it up to the commission because it was kind of a
well,
large
can we vote that we don't approve of it, even though you think it might be futile to do that?
Well, he did this, he went in and cleared,
Burns Ave.
was it 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Yes.
And we fined him,
Yes.
and he paid the fine.
But can,
So, I
Can we be
think what we want to
proactive?
tell him is his suggested area does not meet the requirements that you referenced a section of the act,
Yes.
does not meet those requirements, and he can work to the test pits through with his excavator and only that area, the minimal area that takes to get from point A to
Right,
point B.
right.
Like, does clearing that much space require permitting? That much disturbance?
Oh, yeah.
In the riverfront?
He's in,
I would say so, yes, but, so, the guidelines that I would give it to any developer who wanted to test pits is, you can drive your mini excavator, avoiding trees
everyone
and
does.
saplings and other stuff, and get to your test pit and dig, and then go to your next spot, not just go out there and clear.
And that's what most people do.
I would tell him, if he
100%.
if he wants to work that area that he's talking about, he needs to file a notice of intent for working within the riverfront area. If he wants to just do test pits, then give him the procedure that he wants. And probably, I don't know if you need to remind him that if he does any more than that, then he'd be subject to fines. I don't know if we need to include that now or later.
It's probably already
Great to
done.
do it now, before the
Yeah.
4th
I
of July
mean, I
long
would just
weekend.
put it in there, if he does what he has suggested doing, he's gonna be fined.
Wild.
Which he did this, I forget what the reason
On the
was for
agenda.
doing it, but
We don't
he
have
did,
Sort
he
of.
cleared an area
Okay. Like,
2 or
I
3
know I'm
years
getting
ago.
tired, but.
Right, so I think he's going by the preference, he's going by, he has a negative determination issued by DP, a superseding negative determination issued by DP that the site is a historic mill complex, even though it's in appeal.
Then I don't think anything can be done if it's still an appeal, like, there's still a decision that
He
has
do
to
it
be
at
made.
his own risk.
No.
If the issuing authority issues a negative determination, he can proceed at his own risk. If it was a positive, he couldn't do anything. So I will convey to him that he should just take his mini excavator in, go to the test pit areas, do his test pits, and go to the next one. That's,
Sounds good to me.
I wouldn't reference, if he brings it up, we just remind him that it is under appeal, and that if he does decide to clear that, that we will consider that a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act, the Rivers Act.
okay?
If, I think, if he comes back and says, well, I can do this because, then we need to explain what our position. I think I just tell him, his proposal as suggested.
He's asking to do it on the 10.02 requirement for test pits, so that's.
So those provisions apply.
Okay, then just refer him to what he can do
Yeah,
under
yeah.
that.
He understands.
Right, I think that's what.
Yeah,
right.
just leave it at that then. And
Yeah.
that's what, tell him that's what he's allowed to do.
Okay.
All right.
Usually embedded like that.
Is there anything new on the master plan?
Nothing new.
Nothing new, okay.
Oh, don't we have to do,
We have
So
Swan Pond.
extension.
Pond?
Swan Pond,
What do we got? Is this a,
This is an extension to their order to do pond treatments at Swan Pond.
do we do more than a year for this?
I would suggest giving them 2 years.
Okay, so we'll make that a motion for 20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make it happen, Kevin.
Make decision.
I think that was the last item on our.
You scroll down.
Look at your agenda, do
You know.
You are lazy tonight.
I showed up. I showed up.
All right, fair.
Showing up's half the battle.
Sure.
Showing up and participating.
all right, so shall we move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are we
So I was
ready?
gonna